So, welcome back to another build. Today I'm going to be building a 104 Starfighter. It's a cartoon jet series from Aviation Toys, designed by Vincent Merlin. This is dead easy to build. It just needs a sharp knife and some UHU Por glue. This is a great one to get children interested in building and flying aeroplanes. If you like the video and you like the channel, just give me a like and a subscribe, which would be brilliant. Anyway, let's crack on and I'll show you how to build an electric Starfighter. In your kit you will have a motor pack, which is this little propeller, the motor and the electronic and this capacitor. So the idea of this stores the charge from this, which will be in your kit. So there's your there's a sort of electrics hardware. Then you've got a primary fuselage, like so, and then we've got 3 sheets of printed, superbly printed graphics, which are actually going to get glued onto this primary structure. So to start off with, this is your kit in total. Okay, the only 2 real things you're going to need to build this aircraft with is a nice sharp blade. So I would put a new blade on, ready to go. And the only other thing you're going to need is this UHU Por. Is the only glue that we're going to need. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need is the 5mm fuselage. I think we'll call this the fuselage center. We're going to need the right hand fuselage side, like so. And we're going to apply our UHU glue all around where this is going to stick, like that's going to stick on there, like so. Now, my advice: do not, as in the instructions say, use your finger to smear the glue. 99% of people are fine, but you don't want to find out that this is actually listed as an irritant anyway. My advice is get yourself a cocktail stick, or this is a sushi stick or something like that, just to apply the glue. The other thing I would say is where this is going to go, like so, if you very carefully just make a note with a pencil here, like I've done here, and then glue the other side of that. It means when you come to put the cowling on, which is going to go around here, you're not already going to have a layer of glue on here already. So UHU glue, quite important to go around the battery box, which is this, well, the capacitor box. And my advice is go all around the edges. It's the important thing to do. And I've just got that pencil line where I've got the, and then a little bit in the center. Now remember to put your top back on, because your glue will last longer. So we get our little stick and we just give that. Now the idea is we're going to apply this glue, and then you almost want to smear off the excess, because you don't want to go mad with this. If you have too much glue, what will happen is you'll just end up with bubbles underneath. So I'm just wiping that off, the excess off, like so. And then we're going to leave this for 30 seconds. Just to go a little bit tacky. Just leave that for 30 seconds, and then we're going to apply this fuselage side. Good chance for a quick slurp of tea. Cheers. and I would start at the nose. You can, if you get this horrendously wrong, quickly peel this off, but so I've got it smack on the nose. And then the only other thing to make sure is just here you've got this little slot. Just make sure that you allow that slot, that you don't put the cover over it. Right, so when handling this, just be careful with these wires and the motor. So the idea is the capacitor and the switch unit sits in there like so. Don't glue it yet. The other thing is you then try and keep your wires as neat as possible, and the motor is going to drop in there like so. So what we want to do is at the moment we are just going to apply glue inside the motor housing and then fix the motor in place to make sure that the motor is fixed in place. So we've got our motor, and the idea is that we are just going to pop that in there like so. Now the important thing to make sure that the propeller is spinning freely, and that when you actually look at it, that it sits nice and square in this housing, because if you get a twist in this, you're going to end up with a turn. Okay, so let me just quickly show you this. So that's glued in. I put a little bit of glue, so I've just dropped these two wires into this groove here. There's two little grooves for the wire to go in, and I've just stuck the wire down. Obviously we've checked to make sure that the wind is blowing from the propeller is blowing that way. Now the next thing is we're just going to apply with some more glue. We're going to add this to the side. Okay, so we've put the left hand side on, and we're just going to pop that in there like so. We get the little red light just for a couple of seconds. And remember, you want to be able to feel the propeller this side, not that side, so the air is going that way. So I'm just going to let that run down. So as that runs down, the next thing we need to get is this is the fuselage tube. So this is the next thing we need to do, is to cut this out. Okay, so the next thing is we have cut out this fuselage tube, and the instructions then suggest that we roll it up. Apparently it's virtually unbreakable. So just remember, when you're rolling it up, just make sure that you keep the edges together like so. I'm just going to hold that there for a second. So the idea now is that we are now going to line these up, and we are going to glue that like so, and then make sure it forms into a tube. So this is just butted together. Don't worry about too much about the strength at the moment, because you will find that the orientation, this join is going to get some support when it joins the fuselage. Okay, I might be a little bit pedantic here, but I got a little bit of clear acetate. I'm going to lay that down on the floor like so, and then I'm going to put the tube on there, and then a little bit of acetate over the join like so, and then I've just got this very, very small ruler, and I'm just leaving that on there. I might use just a little bit more weight. and that will ensure that because I noticed that it was actually wanting to pitch like so, so I'm just leaving mine like that just for a few minutes while the glue gets a set. Okay, so I've got my fuselage tube is just gluing, and the next thing we're going to need are the two inlets, which is this here and this here. So we're going to cut these out, and these are then rolled very similar to the tubing to fit on the fuselage sides just in here. Okay, so just remember to get these orientated right, that it's going to sit like so and the arrow faces backwards, and all we're going to do is we're just going to gently roll that up like so. And I actually found that instead of rolling it right up into a circle, I actually just rolled each edge to the center like so, a couple of times, and then that is going to get glued. There's a couple of little tags there for it, so just make sure you've got no glue. Again, that was the reason why I said don't go mad with the glue around this area, mark it off. So we've got some little tags here. So these little tags here are going to fit into this tag here and this tag here. So have a couple of goes at dry fitting it first. That will help you to get the shape and give you a good idea of where you're going to be adding your glue. Okay, so I've added these scoops. You notice the arrows are flying backwards. Now, so the next thing is we've got our main fuselage tube. Just remember that when you look on the instructions, that this arrow has to go backwards. So there's a little bit of gluing we have to, pre-gluing we have to do. So the idea is that we are going to be gluing just here, along here, and then all along here to support the tube. Now my advice would be is just have a little go and get the orientation right, and practice actually making sure that everything fits first, because this is now where that join is going to get supported. And my advice is just have a little practice go just to make sure that everything lines up and that everything is nice and square and that the prop is not going to get caught. So just have a little dry run before we actually add the glue. Okay, so I've added the glue inside. I haven't glued the top bit. Now a couple of things just to, you can actually notice there is a little centre line there and a little centre line there, which you can then look through, make sure that it's all nice and square. Now I've added that glue. I'm just going to add the glue to the top now, and then just make sure, just give the old prop a bit of a spin round, make sure that it's not binding anywhere. Lovely. Right, okay, so I've got my tube is just gluing nicely, and the next thing we have to prepare is the rear fuselage part, which is this piece here. So I'm now just going to cut this out, ready to add to the rear of the fuselage. Okay, this is the rear engine cowling, and this is done in the same method. So the idea is you roll this up to get this curve. Now a little tip when you're rolling this up, what you want to try and do is make sure that the edges stay together like so all the way around. Then you'll end up, because it's going to have a bit of a curve to it, so it'll go around like so. And I found with this material is actually just to leave that for a few minutes and it will get a bit more of a set, and then we're going to glue it edge to edge exactly the same as the main fuselage tube. Right, so this is my tube, the rear tube, fits onto there like so, and it says place the rear fuselage part, first slide it in 3mm throughout the glue, then pull it back 2mm so it's 1mm inside the main tube. So in other words, what you're doing is you're just making sure that it's well covered in glue. So the idea is that you then just put some glue in here first, about 3mm in, or at the edge, push the cone in, push it out so it's all had a nice covering, and then you've just got to make sure that that is obviously nice and square. So I have my tube installed, my rear tube installed. Little tip, I found that this is invaluable for actually storing my fuselage when I'm cutting bits out. Right, so the next bit is we're looking to cut these out. So these are the little fins that go on the bottom of the fuselage. So we have the little fins, and you'll notice that they are the shape. Also remember that you want them when they're being they're glued in, because they're painted one side, white the other side. You don't want them on the outside. They just literally go in there like so, and they go like that. So I'm just going to glue these in place, just make sure that I've got those in the right orientation. So the white's on the inside. It just means that when they're stuck on, you don't see it. Okay, so I have the little tip tanks, and just need to be careful of the orientation to get these right. So as we're looking at this here like so, and conferring with it with the plan, can you see that this, with the fin pointing this way, that is going to go onto there like so, and then that one goes onto there, is glued like that. Okay, just wanted to, I've put the nose reinforcing on in that orientation. Now the other thing I wanted to show you is these are the little fins. So if you hold it like so, and you've got the small stubby fin at the bottom, the long fin at the top, then the idea is that this is then going to fit into that groove like so. And that's how your tip tank should look. So these are the three parts that I need. This is the fin either side, and there is this very small spar. Now in the instructions it does actually say you don't have to use the spar if you don't want to, but I am going to, and give you some idea of where because there's no actual mention of where the spar should actually go, but just looking at the pictures, I would say just where it's the top of the fin goes, I'm just going to mark a small line on the inside, and that's where I'm going to add my fin. So the thickest portion is going to go at the bottom, and my fin is going to go, my spar, sorry, is going to go just like that. Let me show you that. That's where my spar is going to go. And then when I've glued the spar, I'm just going to glue all the way around the outside, join them together, and then that is the fin ready to go. Okay, so I have done my fin, and I included the spar, as you can see. Now the next thing we need to do is just to cut out the stabilizer. So we're going to cut out the stabilizer, and then that gets fitted to the fin. Little tip as we go along, and I'm hoping people are going to watch this before they actually build it. I actually find it easier to turn it when you're cutting out, to turn over. It's just because the printing, I've got to be honest, the printing is so good, it's difficult to tell where the little laser cut lines are. But I found if you turn it upside down, I just found it a lot easier to be able to cut them out. And I always use a ruler just so I get that nice finished edge. So I'm just going to carry on cutting this out, and then we'll be then adding this to the fin. So this is my the stabilizer, and that is then going to fit into there, glued on, and what we want to do is make sure that when you look down there that actually these two are actually the same. It's very easy for one of those to get twisted up like so. So this is where you're going to need to make sure that you've got it glued in, and actually get yourself a little set square just to make sure that everything is square. So what I'm going to do is that when I've got that glued in place, I'm just going to pop this little set square here and hold it like that. Okay, so we've cut out our wing sections, and basically the idea is we've got to get a little bit of a curve. So you see where this front section is with the longer tab, this goes in the leading edge, this goes into the fuselage, and that goes in at the back. And obviously what we've got to do is get ourselves a nice little bit of an aerodynamic curve at the front. So you do see somebody curving this by hand. I found the easiest thing was actually just to get a pencil and only go about that's about halfway, and then I just found that just working that backwards and forwards like so was all I needed to do. And then the idea is that is then going to drop into there like so, and see that's virtually spot on. Now the idea is now what we want to do is, we're not gluing the wing at the moment, but what we want to do is glue these supports in there like so. So what I'm going to do is I am just going to add some glue to tack this in place, and then I'm going to take the wing off. Once I've got these glued in place, then I'm then going to go on to do the adding the tailplane. Okay, so we're just going to be adding the tail surfaces. Now, the thing to remember is, it says in the instructions, don't glue the last 1.5 centimeters. So in fact, actually, if you measure that, you can actually see where that fin on this line just starts to curve up. You see where that angles up? That actually matches the angle of the back of the boom. So that gives you a great idea where to actually glue the fin on. So you don't really want to be adding, so basically you glue from here forwards. And if you can see that where that little curves up there, so you need to glue from here that way. Okay, so the final bits of the assembly is we've got to put the drop tanks on first. So remembering that the painted side, and we've got a white side, so the painted side goes on the outside, so they literally will drop on there like that. And just take your time getting those, and don't forget that the wing's going to have a bit of a curve to it as well. There you go. So I'm just going to glue these in place, and then when we've glued them in place and I've just let them cure, then we're going to add these wings to the fuselage, and we're almost there. Right, okay, so the very last thing we do is adding the wings. I've added that one. Can you see that it says in the instructions that you actually want either neutral or slightly negative, with the rockets either horizontal or slightly downwards is perfect. So I would say, looking at that looks like a good Starfighter to me. I'm quite pleased with that. Now, little top tip, I found that when I got the UHU glue in, it was harder to get the tongues in, and having a stick like this to put behind it made it easier to guide it through. So I'm just going to finish the second one, and whatever, I mean, Vincent says even if it goes straight across, that's fine. The wings go straight across, that's fine. But whatever you do, just make sure that whatever angle you get, that both sides are the same. Well, there she is. She's all done, ready for a test flight. I'm just going to leave that to cure overnight, and now we just got to wait for fairly calmish day. Wow, one little thing to mention about building this kit. You will notice that I haven't added this small trim tab, which is supposed to go inside the engine cowling just here at about 3 o'clock. I've spoken to Vincent, and Vincent said that it's actually not needed. Now, so don't chuck it out, just in case you do need some trimming, but I'm led to believe that that actually isn't needed. So anyway, let's head to the field.